Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Um, you are here, I hope, for the Strategic Portfolio Management with Atlassian webinar. This will also include some things around managing PMOs, IT PMOs, project portfolio management, basically the high-level strategy management within the Atlassian ecosystem. My name is Bryan.darr. I am the Valiantys Head of Enablement. I'm also a safe, we changed the name now recently. I'm an SPC, and I'm a certified Atlassian expert. I'm joined by vanthika.yos, who is also one of our esteemed consultants who does a lot of really great engagements with a lot of really big enterprise clients, particularly implementing the products that we're about to show you today. And she is also an Atlassian guru as well. So for the next hour or so, we're going to talk about why are we doing this. We're going to talk about the how of implementing and running your strategic portfolio management practice. We're going to do a tool deep dive. We're going to talk about additional tools that are sort of outside the ecosystem, but may be helpful that you can connect into the Atlassian ecosystem. And we're going to have time for questions and answers if anybody has any. So let's just dive right in. Why are we doing any of this? I mean, other than collecting a paycheck. The big thing is that we want to align our work to enterprise strategy. We want to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the business. In order to do that, we need to know how much can we do. So in order to know how much we can do this year, which is part of prioritization, we have to understand our capacity to do work and how much work we are demanding of the people doing the work. So visualizing demand versus capacity is obviously really important for that. Clear dependency management. Whenever you're doing large complex processes and you have multiple dependent teams and all of that stuff, dependency management becomes extremely important. So making sure that we're not waiting around because infrastructure didn't know that we needed 20 new servers and they're backed up. We want to get predictable and prioritized. So we want to work on what's important to the business in the order that it's important to the business. And we want to be able to report to our business partners. We see that next one, stakeholder and team visibility. We want to be predictable. We want to know that we're going to get something done in Q2. We even better if we can say we're going to get it done in May. Showing that information to stakeholders is very important. Stakeholders, rightfully so, want to know when things will be delivered. Your marketing team needs to know so they can start a marketing campaign. Your internal business partners want to know so they can sequence their work. It's all pretty important stuff. Fewer fire drills, see the aforementioned dependency management. Nobody likes a fire drill or unexpected scope creep. It just makes it kind of a miserable place to work. And finally, risk mitigation. So if we see our dependencies, if we have everything lined up appropriately, we will ultimately reduce risk. Fun stuff. I nerd out on this stuff. I know Vanthika does too. I hope you do as well. All right. So if you're going to implement any kind of PPM solution or even intake and prioritization solutions, I think it's really important to note that you really should follow this process: people, then process, then tools. Often process and tools comes together, but I think that in terms of prioritization, you want to think about it in this method. And this is how we implement for our clients as well. Often it's not just a tool that's needed, although people think that a tool will solve their problem. It's really a new process. Tools will only reinforce a process, good or bad. They can drive you into the ditch with lightning speed if you are headed that way. And of course, people. If you have the wrong people, you're not going to be able to do anything anyway. If you have people that aren't aligned with company priorities or that don't work well with others, a good process is not going to fix that either. Next, assuming your processes are already optimized, I assume they are too, let's talk about tools, which is the whole point of this webinar. If you're working on implementing with us, for example, one thing we emphasize is minimal changes to teams. I think this is really important. I think that people don't want their cheese moved, and if they do have their cheese moved, to quote a famous book, you're going to want to tell them why and give them lots of preparation for that. And part of managing a whole portfolio is that you do have these individual teams that are contributing, and they have their own special way of working. They have their own norms. They have their own processes. Infrastructure probably works different than software development. Probably works better than, I can't think of another example there. But so each of your teams needs to work in their own unique way. While we are very pro standardization for both training and cross-team synergistic purposes, it's really important to allow your teams to do what they do best with the processes that work well for them. So in general, you can assume that standardization in these tools really needs to happen starting at the program level or at the team of teams level. Basically, not at the task level, but one level up. In Jira, that would be the Jira Epic layer. In Safe, that would be the feature layer. But you really only need to start standardizing there. You can have the teams have their own workflows because everything ultimately rolls up to broad categories of to do, in progress, or done. And from a management standpoint, that's all that really matters. You can tag your epics at that layer with customers, products, etc., to provide a roadmap. And then those can tie to higher level initiatives, allowing to connect to your company strategy. You can also start with a smaller group in the portfolio. So it is kind of scary to change everyone, and there's a lot to be learned about rolling it out with one team or one program. So we often recommend finding that shining light on the hill, the team that really wants to try best practices, get them going, get their processes going. And everyone that sees them will be amazed at how relaxed they look and how accomplished they are in their work. And they're going to want to join that party as well. You also have to organize at the leadership level. You can do a lot from the bottom up, but groundswells only get you so far. And ultimately, you have to have leadership buy-in for a better way of working. Otherwise, you're gonna expend too much social capital, and the project will not be successful. I've seen this a lot of times, unfortunately, with clients. Each of the tools that we talk about today can be started with just a few teams or even just one team. And this will help you solve emergent challenges. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the strategic lifestyle. We are going to get into live tools in a minute. So when you're looking at managing your portfolio, it really, at least I think, goes through these 5 steps: intake, prioritization, planning, execution, and if you're really good, retrospection. Let's find out how we did. Intake is gathering ideas. Prioritization is lining up those ideas to match the priorities of the business. So if we have 2 great ideas, which one's more important? Planning is where we take those prioritized ideas and we start to break them down into work items so we can find out how big they are, so we can visualize that demand versus capacity, what will fit where, what's our cut line for what we can get done this quarter or this year. Execution is traditionally the realm of Jira, where the teams are tracking their work, they're managing their dependencies, they're scheduling and planning their sprints, grooming, refining their backlogs, etc. And then retrospection is just a really good practice. Let's see how we did in all phases, and let's work towards that continuous improvement. So first, I want to talk about items 1 and 2, intake and prioritization. And then we'll cover planning, execution, and retrospection afterwards. Within the Atlassian ecosystem, by far, the best intake and prioritization tool is also one of the newest ones, and that is Jira Product Discovery. If you haven't heard about it, get excited. This is a really cool tool. Specifically, you can use it to do intake, prioritizing. You can show formulas for prioritization. You can show 2 different statistic matrices to see what falls in the upper right quadrant that we're going to work on first. You can and you can generate new ideas right in the tool. You can also use Jira Service Management or Project Forms as a front end. So if you're used to sending people in your company to your internal service portal, you can use JSM for that internal intake. Have an idea, click here. But ultimately, you want all of those ideas to land in Jira Product Discovery, because that's the best way that you can prioritize and ultimately link to delivery. One of the reasons Jira Product Discovery, I'll say JPD from now on, is so good is that it is incredibly flexible, because the way that you prioritize as a company will evolve over time. Unless you are a very old company, and even then, you're going to want to change based on the markets. So this allows you to, on the fly, create new views, new prioritization formulas, and that will keep you up to date with the market. So let's dive in and see, what does that actually look like? So here we are live in a tool. This is Jira Product Discovery. If you're used to Jira Product Discovery is a project type. And in the new world of Jira Cloud, this is only available in Cloud. You basically only have 3 project types now. What was Jira Software and Jira Work Management are being merged into just Jira. You still have Jira Service Management as its own project type. And then you have Jira Product Discovery. So what we're looking at here is a discovery project, as you can see. Let me just blow this up just a little bit, help people with small monitors. And I'm looking at one of many customizable views. So this view, I have all of the ideas that we have brought into the company, and I've got different qualifications, different categorizations of those views. Does it tie to a certain goal? Do we have specs ready? What is our impact score based on a number of priorities, including, let's say, estimated effort and estimated impact? I could add other fields, like how many people have voted for it. I can see a status, and I can add a number of custom fields here, including formulas, which is pretty cool. But that's just one view, and that's just my show me everything view. If I want to do an impact assessment, I could pull in a couple of different fields here. Or if I wanted to look at impact versus effort, I can show that here. And so maybe I find the highest impact with the lowest effort. So maybe we're going to work on this feature instead. And these are all just Jira work items hiding in the background. They're just ideas. But it's really easy to make a new view. You can just click here, create a new section, create a new list, create a new board, new matrix, or timeline. And these are the broad functional views here. We'll come back to boards and timelines in a minute. But you can imagine that you can get all your ideas in one place, at least all of your project ideas, and then prioritize them, and then mark them as ready to plan. You can do that too through a Jira status or through internal methods within JPD that'll show in a minute when we switch over to planning. So this is a pretty incredible tool, and you're going to change how you prioritize as your company changes, and this piece of the tool is incredibly flexible for it. So now, also one more thing. If we just click into any idea, it looks just like a Jira issue in a slightly different sidebar. So we have the overview with all of our fields. We have extra fields down here. We can have comments around these. One other neat thing is that you can attach insights to an idea. So there's really just 2 object types in this project, an idea and an insight. And the insight allows you to say, hey, I saw this on the news, or I heard customer A talking about this, or internal stakeholder B wants us to do this. So you can attach all of this information, and there's even quick capture insight tools that you can attach to Chrome, etc. A bit of a preview for later, you can attach an idea to a delivery ticket, and we will see that a bit down the road. So we can connect our intake and prioritized ideas into our planning and execution very cleanly right here in the tool. All right, so that's intake and prioritization at a very high level. You could prioritize in Jira. In fact, before Jira Product Discovery, that was the best way to prioritize. You would use the rank field and a lot of other fields, and you would look at everything on a board or a backlog, and you would prioritize. But this is a whole new level. One other thing to talk about is this is really for project work prioritization, or I would say change the business prioritization. You're still going to have your operational teams over in their Jira projects prioritizing operational work that really should be prioritized in an entirely different bucket. It's really hard to, in fact, I would argue it's impossible to take all of the operational priorities and all of the project change the business priorities and cross prioritize them. Your safest bet is going to be to control that mechanism really by flagging work as either project or operational, and then making sure that you're working at a certain percentage across those. Let's say, 60% operational, 40% project work. That's a lot to talk about. Let's talk about planning and execution. I'm going to dive right back into Jira Product Discovery because Jira and Jira Product Discovery bridge together to hit planning and execution. And then we're going to talk about 3 great tools that are part of the ecosystem that really help you with breaking work down and visualizing cross-project work. And that's going to be advanced roadmaps, structure and structure Gantt, and big picture and big picture enterprise. The last 2 are paid add-ons. Advanced roadmaps is, it just comes free with Jira. So let's dive back into Jira Product Discovery and talk about planning. So once we decide, hey, we're going to work on this one because either our planning formula surfaced it to the top, or we saw it on a matrix and we're like, yes, this one right here. Well, we can come and adjust either a custom field or a status, and then view it in this, what Atlassian would call an honest roadmap view. So basically, we're looking at the horizons of now, next, and later. So if something falls into later or next, now we need to start breaking it down into work items so we can really get a good estimate of how big that item is, how much demand, and the teams can start understanding it so they can start getting it into their backlogs. So let's say we move something into next, and now we're going to work on it. Fantastic. Well, we're going to click into here and then come to the delivery ticket, and maybe we make an epic or an initiative, and we put that into the program backlog. And then we ask the teams, hey, can you start breaking this work down and start estimating this epic so that we understand how big it is so that we can prioritize it appropriately. So we've now bridged planning and execution. And you can, I wonder if I have a good piece of data here. Maybe this one here. Yeah. So you can even see delivery progress bars rolling in, and you can connect multiple delivery tickets to it. This should blow your mind. This is incredible. We now have intake, prioritization, and planning execution wrapping together. Once you know that you're working on it next or you're working on it now, you can also solve the next problem of, what do my stakeholders know about this project work? Stakeholders rarely care about operational work. We're gonna upgrade the servers. We're gonna work on our tech debt. We're gonna do all that. They care about the change the business project work mostly. So now you can come to this plan, which looks like a traditional roadmap. And here we have the same ideas that we've been looking at the whole time through, that have gone through intake and prioritization and horizon roadmaps, and now we're on this roadmap. And this is flexible. You can do fuzzy dates so that we're not asking our stakeholders to go look into Jira and try to figure out based on the percent of completed known work items when it's going to get done. We can project to them here how we're doing. So if we click into this, we can see, again, the same idea, the same information. And if we like this roadmap, we can publish it. And you have options to publish this. Well, I don't right now because of permissioning, but you can publish this to anyone on the internet with a link. You can publish it to everyone in your company, or just project managers. So now you're actually removing the need for a Jira license to show your stakeholders how you're doing. But you can also just grab these and you can just share the views. You can grab a screenshot. I think they're also adding picture downloads here. Yeah, there we go. Export. There it is. Yeah, you can download it as a JPEG or you can download it as a CSV. Drop it in your PowerPoint, and now you're only one step away from the live information about what we're projecting to our stakeholders. If you're used to seeing all this in Jira plans, formerly advanced roadmaps, this is a real paradigm shift. We are showing our roadmaps now in the intake and discovery tool, and we're keeping it loosely connected to delivery, because delivery sequencing, that's going to have its own dependency challenges, and we don't necessarily want our stakeholders diving into that and asking about individual stories and tasks as we go. But I hope this is getting you excited. I think this is one of the coolest things that Atlassian's ever made. So now that we have moved something into now, we are actively working on it. We have broken it down. We are now asking our teams to make sure that it's in all of their sprints. Now we pivot pretty much completely over to Jira, and we just leave the idea owner back here in JPD to update that roadmap as things develop. So now we're switching over into advanced roadmaps, structure and structure Gantt, and big picture and big picture enterprise to talk about managing the execution. So far, so good. All right. So when we're managing these work now, advanced roadmap, structure Gantt, big picture. Let's talk first about advanced roadmaps. This is a cross-project road mapping and visualization tool in Jira. Oh, I thought I had a feature comparison there, but that's fine. And I should say it's not advanced roadmaps anymore, it's called plans. This is used to coordinate execution across your teams. So each of your teams is probably working in their own Jira project, and now we need to coordinate that work cross-project wise. So what we'll see here first is, I'm going to go to a view called initiative planning. So we're starting here and we can see our initiatives that break down into epics, that break down into stories. And we can collapse these and expand them, and we can expand the fields over here. And we can bring in whatever fields we want to see in order to do our team planning. So like a swag field, a product flag, we could flag it as MVP. You can have progress bars in here, but this is really managing the execution and the future sprint planning of something that we are now committed to. You can view it only in a list here, or you can click on timeline, and I've got a little too many fields in this timeline, but if we collapse it, you can see I've got time bars associated with each of my work items over here. And there's kind of a lot going on here, so let me just explain it really quick. A solid bar means that we have solid dates, September 19th, 2023 to September 16th, 2024. A striped bar means that it is inheriting the dates from its children. The children are rolling up. So as I move this, you can see the parent move in and out. So that's what the stripes mean. And then the fading means that we have set a hard date on one side, but we have not set a hard date on the other side. You can also see these nice dependency details that are tracing through. Those will turn red if things are out of sequence. You can see today's date. You can see releases flagged as major milestones on the timeline. And you can change the timeline for whatever you want. You can also, depending on what you want to see, you can change views. So this one is initiative planning, starts at initiative, goes down to story. But I could make a different view called epic planning. This one starts at epic, goes down to story, and instead of showing initiative above, it has a parent initiative field here, a different set of fields. All the same data hiding underneath. This is all being pulled up from Jira, but I get to choose what view I need to plan with. And if you have very detail-oriented internal stakeholders who really do need to see the execution progress granularly, you could save one of these views specifically for those kinds of stakeholders, and you can then share these views. You can export them as a CSV file or as an image, again, to drop into, let's say, a PowerPoint. You can also grab a link and drop it over in Confluence to show a live roadmap in Confluence. Or you can send a read-only view to somebody as well. They will need a Jira license, though, to see this. So unlike Jira Product Discovery, which is that high-level, slightly abstracted, subjective roadmap view, this one requires a Jira license to see anything in it. This will also respect all of the permissions in the underlying project. So if I saw this plan, but I didn't have permission to see these issues, I wouldn't see them on the plan. You can also do some other interesting view settings here. You can color items by different things. You can group items in swim lanes by different criterion. You can change the way dependencies work. You can change what you roll up. You can change the sorting order. You can come over here and you can filter on specific issues or specific assignees or projects or even platform goals. If you're tying work to goals, show me everything that's intended to increase revenue in Q1. And you can also tie them back to those Jira Product Discovery ideas right here. So if you haven't seen this tool, hopefully you're getting really excited about this too. This is free with Jira Cloud Premium and Jira Cloud Enterprise. You can't get it if you're on Jira Cloud Standard or Jira Cloud Free. There's a couple other helpful things in here too, besides all of these saved views and sharing those views. One is that I can make live edits here in the tool. And as I make those edits, you'll see these little green flags popping up here. If I highlight over one, it should tell me, yeah, there we go. Basically, it says this change only applies to the plan. It is not yet in Jira. So I can do all of my execution planning here. And when I'm ready to push it back to the teams, I can click up here, Unsaved Changes, and I can choose which changes to push back to Jira. I can choose by when or who or specific items that I've selected, and I can then push those changes to Jira. Jira will update. People may or may not get notified depending on my settings, and then we can move forward. This also allows for scenario planning, so I can do a best case and worst case scenario. Worst case, let's say everyone goes on holiday for a month. We can see how that would impact our delivery. And then the person over in JPD can be watching those execution tickets and see how they're doing and update their roadmap appropriately. There's also a calendar view here in plans. So you can view all of your work based on either months or weeks, and you can filter by projects or whatever issue types you want to show. You can change your view settings here. And there's also a program board. This is for scheduling team level work across teams. So let me see. So I've got some sprints here vertically in columns, and I can schedule each team's work across those sprints, and then I can add those. Although I don't see them here. I don't have enough work in here to show this. But as I add this work to different teams and to different sprints, I can also create dependencies across them, and I can see those, spaghetti line red dependencies if we don't have them scheduled appropriately. Now, this view is really compacted because I had blown it up to make it easier to see for you, but you would do your planning on a large monitor, I guess, is what I would say to that. So you can show all your work, you can plan it in sprints. You can also view dependencies as a dependency map. So if we zoom out here, I can see all of the sequenced dependencies for the particular scope of this plan. And I can filter it, I can group it, and I can roll these dependencies up to different items as well. So let's just see how the epics depend on each other based on their children. Or I can leave it down at the child level. This is a really, really great tool, especially for planning execution and for showing internal, highly informed stakeholders about the granular execution. All right, let's come back and let's look at the next tool. Oh, and just so you know, some choices. Why would you use this tool? Well, it's free and it creates a really excellent visualization of work. Now, some things that might stop you from using this tool. Plans is not a Gantt chart. You may think it is, but it's not going to move dependent items when you move preceding items across the timeline. It's just going to show you on a timeline based on Jira dates. It will not show you critical path, although that dependency map is a close proxy for that. It will not save baselines. It doesn't have any sort of earliest start, latest finish constraints. And there's no cross-plan resourcing view. One thing that I forgot to show is you can show capacity here, but capacity is based on team level capacity. Let me come to my capacity view. Hopefully the data is still okay. Oh, it's not. That's frustrating. Let me come to the program view then, and I'll show you here. So you see these little bars here. As I fill work, we can see that we have a capacity of 30 story points for this team. And as I fill it with work, it'll fill up as a green bar. And if I go too big, it'll turn red, telling me that I need to move some work out for that team. So we can see capacity per team per sprint, but we're not going to see capacity per individual. Just something to keep in mind. All right, so again, deciding factors. Free, native with Jira, not a Gantt chart. Great for roadmaps, great for team level resourcing, great for sharing execution visualizations. Moving on to the next tool. So the next one is a Gantt chart. And if you are used to traditional project management, if you have more of a waterfall requirement, certainly plans leans more towards agile than waterfall, but you can still do waterfall in plans. But if you really need a Gantt chart, Structure and Structure Gantt are the add-ons that you will want to add to your ecosystem. So let's dive into the tool and look live at that. We'll come here to Structure. So Structure creates a Gantt overlay on top of the data already existing in Jira. And you can see kind of a lot of info happening here. But I'll just sort of talk at a high level of this. So just like we saw, let me hide that, there we go. So just like we saw over in plans, we have the work breakdown structure over here. Initiatives breaking down into epics, breaking down into stories. Let me find somewhere. And then over here, we have our Gantt. Oops, didn't mean to open that. So we can expand work items out. We can see the underlying work items. You can see progress bars in green leaning up towards them. We can see here that we can save baselines across all of our issues, which is helpful, so we can see shift over time. And then we can see our resourcing functionality down here. So unlike plans, we can actually do individual level resourcing here. So based on the assignee, we can see how much work they have assigned to them. There's some other really nice Gantt features in here as well. As you add dependencies, this is a finish to start dependency. So unlike Jira plans, I should say, which is really only based on the blocks is blocked by dependency, although it's customizable. Structure has the classic ones: finish to start, start to start, start to finish, finish to finish. So you've got the 4 standard Gantt chart dependency types in here. You can also add in lag and lead time as well. There's some other cool things. Within structure, there's this idea of slices. Actually, no, let me show you scheduling first. One thing you can do in structure that I find very helpful is you can convert story points to hours. I know that this will send agilists out into the streets with pitchforks and torches, but if you are going to turn story points into an actionable plan over time, somebody needs to see that in hours and days. So you can set a baseline conversion and just use that for planning purposes. Like, again, none of this is written in stone until it's completed. So we're just guessing at the future here. With this default estimate and with this hours conversion, we can set that. But we can also do it per slice, and a slice is a JQL. It's a JQL scoped subset of the plan. So you could say, for most teams, 1 story point equals 1 hour. But for this particular team, whenever something's assigned to them, it's going to be 1 story point equals 5 hours, or something like that. So you can get really granular with your planning here. And again, this is just laying on top of Jira. So much like the rest of these tools, you're connecting delivery to your planning views directly. So you're not having to go to status update meetings and tell the project manager how things are going. They can see it live in the tool right here and whether or not it is complete. Let's come back and talk about this tool and why you might or might not want it. So first, and that's not even on here, Structure and Structure Gantt are 2 separate add-ons. You have to buy them both. Structure just gives you the left half. Structure Gantt gives you the right half, but you can't get the right half without the left half. So you'll need to buy 2 apps. You can do granular scheduling behavior, which is helpful. You can do team and individual resourcing. Oh, and one thing I forgot to show you in the tool is when I click on an item, let me click on an expanded item down here at like a task level item. So for scheduling, we can do auto scheduling or manual scheduling. That's where you get that Gantt slide when you're pushing things in and out. And you can give it a custom estimation. You can hard set dates if you need to. And you can even say how many resources or even what fraction of resources can work on this. So maybe more than one person can work on this at a time. Again, really granular planning here. Anyway, back to this. You can have multiple baselines, so you can track project shift over time. You can do duration based on your estimation. So over in plans, the duration of the bar is independent of the estimate of work. In structure, you can auto set the duration based on how much work you estimate that item to be. So maybe we have 2 people working on it half time for a total of 1 FTE, and it's 1 FTE's worth of work for a week, so the bar extends to a week. But if you remove somebody, it'll extend to 2 weeks. Structures themselves are quite useful, just like plans. You can do custom fields custom formulas within a structure, which is quite helpful. There's no skilling. Skilling is where I would say that only a resource with a particular classification can work on a particularly classified item, such as a developer doing the development portion of work, or a BA doing a BA portion, or an architect doing an architect portion. So there's no granular skilling of individuals with structure and Structure Gantt. Resource leveling can only be done within the data center version. So if you're doing Jira on-prem, and the same with sandboxing. So that is one thing that that I struggle with in here is that all the changes that I'm making, these are live in the tool. So it's not protected like that was before, at least in cloud. Unless, did they just release this? Oh, they did. Oh, that's wonderful. You're seeing it here live. They finally updated. I'm gonna have to change my webinar. So some fields. You can copy the data here in the Gantt, it looks like. You can copy start date to start date. But other changes over here, if you're making them within this section, within the scope section, that's going to be live changes to Jira. So you're not storing them and waiting to push them out based on a planning session. So it's not perfect, but if you're in data center, it really is totally sandboxed, and you can stop and say, push everything back to Jira. And it's great for sharing visualizations. All right. The last tool, well, the last big one we're going to talk about today is Big Picture and Big Picture Enterprise. This is a similar tool to Structure, works just a little bit differently. But mostly Big Picture and Big Picture Enterprise is really a multi-tool. It gives you the program boards that you saw in plans. It gives you a risk module. It gives you roadmaps. It gives you planning modules. And it allows you to do what I would consider more hybrid planning. Most importantly, Big Picture gives you individual skills. So if you really need to get that granular in your planning, you can do that with Big Picture. All right, so basically, Big Picture, you structure it in a box. A box is a defined scope, and you can relate boxes to each other. So you could have a portfolio box that has program boxes within it, and the program boxes have program increments within them, and the program increment boxes have biweekly iterations. Or you can do projects or phases or initiatives, or you can do a mix of all of them to do hybrid planning between waterfall and agile. Let's see what that looks like in the tool. It'll make a lot more sense once we're in there. Again, this is all still based off of the underlying data living in Jira projects. So we're still always connecting our portfolio planning back to the work that is broken out for the teams to do. So here what we have is we've got a hybrid portfolio structure where we have a program that is broken down into those program increments. It's broken down into iterations. Or we could do a traditional project in the same portfolio where we have a project broken down into project stages. So whichever one makes you comfortable. I'm going to hop into a demo portfolio here. And you're pretty much going to see the same thing you saw over in Structure. Over here on the left side, we have all of our work that expands down and breaks out. Over here on the right, we see our Gantt style view and all the information in here. And we can update the start dates and the end dates. And we can set scheduling modes. Are we going to schedule the epics based on the stories? Are we going to or are we going to schedule the stories based on the epic times? We can do our individual resourcing down here, where we can show the amount of work that is unassigned and then the amount of work that we have assigned to an individual. Some other cool features of Big Picture, it has the same linking style, Gantt style linking of Structure, but you can also visualize regular Jira links in there too. So we can show the strong, start to start, start to end, but we can also show the soft ones that are blocks as blocked by. So this is more of a hybrid planning linking approach, which I appreciate. It allows you to see what the team members are saying are blockers, and then you can also overlay a really strict Gantt style scheduling on top of that. A very similar tool. So why would you want to get Big Picture and Big Picture Enterprise instead? Well, Big Picture Enterprise has multiple tools in one. Although that being said, the program board and the calendars are now natively available in Jira, so that's less of a selling point now. You can do cross-plan resourcing, though, which is something that you cannot do within Structure. Big picture really is about resource planning, I think. That is its strongest selling point right now, because you can also do those individual skills. You can flag a work item in Jira and say that only somebody qualified to do this kind of work item can be scheduled in big picture. You can do resource contouring to make the resourcing smooth out over the course of the work. You're a little limited in the configuration, and you do have to have an additional third add-on to do any decent visualization exports. But if you really need that granular skilling, that's what you're going to want. That's a lot of tools. The last one that I want to talk about is really Atlassian's flagship strategic portfolio management tool, which is called Jira Align. Jira Align takes everything you've seen already and shoves it into one tool and puts that very large tool right above Jira through a connector. It is for planning program level work all the way up to the enterprise strategy. This is a great tool if you are following the scaled agile framework. We have a whole webinar on it, so I'm not going to go too deeply into it right now, but it'll give you things like program boards that we saw before in Jira. It'll give you roadmaps. You can do OKR planning, which is also rolling into Jira. So a lot of this is coming into the platform natively, but it provides structure for really large enterprises that is harder to create natively within Jira. I would say if you're a small or medium-sized enterprise, you most likely don't need Jira Align. But if you're a large enterprise, ooh, yeah, it's a great tool. I'm not going to dive into this webinar so much, but I thought I had. Yeah, there we go. But we have a webinar coming up. I believe that link is getting put. Yeah, right there. Yeah. So thank you so much. So we have other trainings coming up, including a free webinar that's all about Jira Align deep dive. We do. Let me just go to the training website to show you. So in addition to this free webinar, that was not the website I wanted to go to. Valiantystraining.com. In addition to this free webinar, we have a lot of other ones too. We have a successful governance using Atlassian tools webinar. We have an introduction to Confluence. We have a Jira Service Management Fundamentals webinar. We have an Atlassian Analytics webinar. Then we also have paid classes too. So if you want to take a 3-day deep dive Jira Administrative Bootcamp, this is a great class for you. We also have a 2-day Jira Service Management Administrative Bootcamp. We teach Angular to software developers. So if you come here to this website, there's a lot of free classes and a number of really helpful paid classes if you want to learn more about these tools. If you are interested in these tools and have any questions, you can reach out. We're happy to answer emails. We love nerding out about this stuff and talking about it. We have a lot of free information on YouTube, including a recent video showing the new cloud UI that's coming out. It's coming for you if you're on cloud. It's coming out in the next 3 months, I think. And if you want to talk about getting help implementing any of this, again, feel free to reach out by email or LinkedIn. Really happy to chat about this anytime. And with that, I just want to see if there's any questions about any of these tools before we sign off and let everybody go. Let's see, QA. And I'll wait about a minute in case anybody's typing anything in. All right, looks like no questions. I hope that's a good thing. Thank you guys so much for your kind attention and time. I know it's valuable. I hope you found this valuable, and please reach out if you have any questions. Thanks so much and have a great day.